Tombstone's origins have truly begun. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 4 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And yeah, last time on we saw Lonnie take the place of his brother in this gang, and it's clearly going to be what sets him on the path to eventually becoming Tombstone. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes with kind of the parallels between him there and Peter. With Peter having joined forces with Norman now. Norman knowing about him being Spider-Man and being kind of his man in the chair at the moment, as well as just helping him in general. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes as well, just because we know who Norman Osborn is, and we know things are not going to stay as hunky-dory forever. We also had some pretty interesting, like, little side villains last time. The speed guy with the quick boots and everything, the tech, was played by Roger Craig Smith, who's known for playing Sonic the Hedgehog, so that was really funny to me. That the speedy guy is played by Sonic the Hedgehog's voice actor. One of his voice actors, mind you. But then the girl who had like the bladed arm weapons, she was voiced by Enrique Quinones, who is a great voice actor who has done a lot of great work. They're awesome. I've gotten to meet them at Youmacon. But with like the kind of gauntlet weapons kind of reminded me of Harriet Bree, their character in Ruby. So it's like just, that's a fun little comparison to make as well. Also, they kind of had a similar personality to Harriet, a little more lovey-dovey, but the kind of like brash, aggressive, like fighty kind of character kind of made me think of Harriet a bit different, but still close enough. And we're getting to see there's this tech that's being like put out on the streets, and we saw that Norman was getting a good look at the symbol on it, which kind of looked like an infinity symbol or something. And I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean right now. I don't know where we're getting at with this. But I don't recognize the symbol offhand. It didn't look like Norman did. And I doubt Peter would. So that's definitely setting up for something in the future. And I like how we're getting to see all these different villains using this tech. It kind of reminds me of My Adventures with Superman. I think they did something similar in that. So I'm very interested to see where it goes in terms of that, in terms of this connection between these different villains. I also am very interested to see like what more goes down with the lab stuff, because we have a lot of notable characters in there. Most notably, Dr. Carla Connors, who is the at least probably going to become the Lizard. We have Amadeus Cho, who has a Hulk form in the comics. It's like we're setting up a lot of different characters. And there's even more set up for the future with season 2, because there's been some announcements about that. I'm not going to go into details here in case anyone hasn't heard about it. But there's been some announcements for season 2 that there's a lot of online discussion about. I'm excited for it. But there is some divisiveness to that discussion. I'll just leave it at that. I'm very interested in like what the main like follow through of this season is going to be, because right now there's no like consistent plot other than just, you know, Peter working with Norman. and Lonnie starting to go down the route of becoming Tombstone. Um, Other than that, there's like no like big bad introduced yet for the season. Um, but there is one villain in the opening we've yet to see, so I'm still looking forward to seeing Scorpion. There's that. I don't know who else is going to end up being in this season or the eventually coming seasons 2 or 3. But hopefully, with as like exciting as this has been so far, as good as this has been, it continues to really hold that. I talked about this I think last time, but this is a super well received series. It's like been getting all kinds of acclaim. It's doing really well. And I can definitely see why. It's been great so far. So I'm just hoping that it sticks the landing for this season and that it continues to be great going into future seasons. Because there's just so much great potential here. But we'll see. We'll see. So that being said, let's just get into this episode and see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I of course looked up Hugh Dancy, who voiced Otto. I wanted to know who he was, because the name sounds familiar, and I think it's just one of those actors who I've vaguely heard of before. Like, I've heard the name mentioned here and there, but have never actually seen anything, because I looked at his credits. There's like nothing in there that I would know him from. Like in terms of television or movies outside of this. So okay, that's the thing. And speaking of a thing, Harry knows. So not only does Norman know that Peter is Spider-Man, but so does Harry now. That's going to be interesting for the dynamic as well. I'm really curious to see where that all leads. So we had this woman who was working with these others, and she ended up like betraying them because she was secretly working for Otto behind the scenes. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Doc Ock is a really great character in pretty much any interpretation, but I really loved how he was portrayed in the PlayStation games. I think it's just a really great twist on the character, and of course, the gender bent version in Spider-Verse was fantastic as well. But this is definitely more comic, like accurate Doc Ock, especially in terms of design. I'm wondering, like, are they going to take inspiration from like Alfred Molina's portrayal? Because he's kind of, a lot of people think of Alfred Molina's portrayal from Spider-Man 2 and since then No Way Home as well, as kind of the quintessential Doc Ock. And so I'm curious if they're going to take a bit from that. We see a lot throughout this episode of the Avengers and the Sokovia Accords and everything that happened, in the mainline MCU. And so it's interesting that while this is like a parallel universe to the MCU, we're still seeing that a lot of these events are still occurring. Obviously, there's some differences, but they seem to mostly, in terms of what's happening with the Avengers, be minor. Because all of that seems to be going kind of in the same direction. They mentioned the alien invasion, they mentioned Ultron, they mentioned the Civil War. they're like bringing up everything that they've gone through. And it's just really interesting. It's really an unexpected little addition to this world that just shows some great world building, great work. I like how this episode also touched on like these different suits, and all of them were bad, except for the final one, which was just a really cool designed white Spider-Man suit. But I like how all the other ones were bad because they were trying a little too hard, and even Norman admitted that. He's like, because of his desire to like serve the city and everything, he was trying too hard to like make these the highest quality upgrades possible with the best gadgets, the best abilities and everything. And he was kind of trying to take away Peter's identity as Spider-Man. And I'm kind of wondering about that. Because I'm wondering how intentional his actions were. Like, was his attempt to try and control Peter by having him be something else? Or was he always just luring Peter into using the Spider-Man suit? Like, was the white Spider-Man suit always the plan from the beginning? And this was just a way of getting, like, I don't know, like, views on how Peter handles things and handles these kind of situations with different ideas. I don't know. I'm just suspicious of Norman because it's fucking Norman Osborn. Meanwhile, on Lonnie's side of things, he ends up like kind of fully committing himself after some trouble to Big Donovan, after he's sent to go and get this food. He's gone for a food drop and ends up coming in contact with some members of a rival gang called the Scorpions, who were serving under Matt Gargan. So, for those who don't know, Matt Gargan is known as the Scorpion. He is a villain from the comics who's also actually become Venom at one point. And there's different depictions of him. There's depictions that show him as like kind of a psychopath. There's depictions of him that he's like a cunning strategist. Some where he's just like a kind of a brute. It just depends on the version. Here he's like this like manipulative, frightening gang leader of sorts. And I'm definitely interested to see more of what they do with him, because apparently he's good at tracking. So that's really interesting, because that, I feel, would be more of Kraven's thing. But we'll see how that ends up going down. And I wanted to look up, let me grab my phone here, because I want to look up who Bulldozer was in this. So let me look up that real quick. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Bulldozer. Because, yeah, he's voiced by Ettore Ewan, who is Big E from pro wrestling fame. Yeah. Okay. I was correct. I was thinking he was the guy who was, like, big into the burritos, was asking about the hot sauce. It's like, you gonna finish that? Yeah, the guy who's, like, wearing the orange jacket, has the chain on and everything. Yeah, that was Big E. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I knew he was going to be in this. I had already heard about that. But I didn't know who he was going to be or when in the series he would debut. So I was just kind of like waiting to see when it would happen. And his voice is something I wouldn't recognize like right off the bat. So I didn't tell. Of course, I also couldn't tell Mikhail was Travis right away, but then it's like seeing that it was him in the credits. Like, yeah, it absolutely was. That's just really interesting. That's really fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed finding that in there. I'm excited to see where a lot of this goes, because there's a lot of setups here still. And now that we're bringing in both Matt Gargan and Otto Octavius, like, are one of them going to be the main villain for the season? Or maybe they both are. Like, think about it. What if Doc Ock is the main villain for Peter and Matt Gargan is the main villain for Lonnie? What if that's how it goes? Because, like, we're following both of their stories interchangeably. What if they both have their own final villains to deal with? That would be actually pretty cool. Though I don't know how Lonnie would deal with Scorpion offhand, especially if Mac is going to have the Scorpion suit. And that could mean he has, the Venom, which might or may not be, depending on the take, hallucinogenic as well. It's just, there's a lot to deal with when it comes to Matt Gargan. So it's like, how would Lonnie deal with something like that? I honestly don't know. But maybe that's where the Tombstone stuff is going to come into play. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But yeah, there's some really interesting setups here, and I'm very curious as to where that's going to go. And the Muscle Girl, that was Mila, right? Roxana was the other one in the truck. So interesting that Mila is the one who goes off and does her own thing. I guess she was like just kind of using them the entire time. I wonder if she's going to be a notable character, like throughout the rest of the season, working with Otto. Because that would be cool, like for Sarah Natacheni to have a big role in this. I'd be all game for that. I'm just wondering. Because she also seems like she could have just been a random hired hand by Otto to get what he needed here. It's hard to say. But yeah, there's a lot of cool setups here. I'm wondering what they're going to do with Harry knowing now. I assume he's going to join in on things, which is really cool because that means more Zeno Robinson, which I'm always game for. Yeah, this is turning out to be just as great as I was hoping, and there's a lot of things that I'm very curious about. And I just thought of something. I literally just thought of it right now. You know how the tech that the villains were using had the infinity symbol? What if it wasn't an infinity symbol? Hold on, let me... I don't want to look it up because I feel like that'd be spoilers. It was kind of like this infinity symbol, but I'm wondering if like maybe it was like O and O for like Otto Octavius. Like what if it was like his symbol? What if he's making the tech and delivering it to people? Because we know that like when they put the money, the two from last episode, in the dumpster kind of just crawled away up the side of the alley, and they were left money behind. I could see Otto doing something like that. As, dramatic as it is. I'm really curious if that was his now. Because that could fit Otto Octavius. Now I'm very curious about that. I'm very interested to see if my theory comes true there. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. I definitely want to hear your thoughts though. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? Let me know, and obviously no spoilers as always. For now though, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'll see you all next time. Till then.